With half the world's population now living in cities, greenhouse gas emissions and global temperatures are rapidly on the rise. I'm here in New York City, one of the most power-hungry places on planet Earth, to see if the city that never sleeps is wide awake to climate change.
Other cities and even countries look at us.
The city has a mandate to be a leader when it comes to decarbonization, but also to be a leader when it comes to trying to address the housing crisis.
The environmental challenges facing New York are vast.
Sea level rise is a big issue.
Doing nothing is not an option.
A message: we're ROCKWOOL and we're super passionate about using our sustainable solutions to protect our ocean and beyond. And that's why we sponsor SailGP, because everywhere we race around the planet, we endeavour to leave a positive impact.
So, while we're in New York, let's see what challenges this city faces and whether we can help.
And don't forget to subscribe. Despite covering just 2% of the Earth's surface, cities consume more than 3/4 of the world's energy and produce over 60% of our global greenhouse gas emissions. To put that into perspective, over half of the world's greenhouse gas emissions come from just 25 cities, and more than 40% of that total comes from the built environment. In New York alone, buildings are responsible for over 70% of greenhouse gas emissions. And with 1 million buildings in the city, New York is known as the concrete jungle for good reason.
So, what are greenhouse gas emissions exactly? Well, they're a mixture of many gases, including carbon dioxide. These are man-made and contribute heavily to climate change, air pollution, and ocean acidification, amongst other things, and are a direct threat to human health, food security, and biodiversity. So, why do cities generate so many emissions? Lots of people demand lots of energy. More people means more transport, construction, industry, and waste. What goes in must come out, so fossil fuels, bad building practices and poor waste management drive up emissions and heat up the planet, resulting in climate change. With that in mind, what is New York actually doing to reduce its footprint? In May 2019, New York enacted its toughest legislation to date, the Climate Mobilization Act. It's designed to reduce the city's greenhouse gases by 40% by 2030 and 80% by 2050. At its core is Local Law 97, a mandate which sets emission limits for each building by type.
This affects 50,000 buildings over 25,000 square feet, and in 2024, 25% of those buildings will be affected.
I'm on a mission to meet those on the front line and understand if we're on track to redefine and redesign one of the most heavily populated cities on the planet.
This is a piece of legislation that is among, if not the most consequential piece of climate legislation globally. Anytime you set ambitious new goals, we often immediately run into a question of who is going to pay for it. We know that we will all pay for this one way or another, so doing nothing is not an option. The environmental challenges facing New York are vast, and like many other cities around the world, we're really scrambling to keep up with the scale of challenges coming at us. There are a lot of building owners that are grappling with the costs that they may need to incur, and that's where there's some tension, and that's where we feel the federal government, state, and local government should create stronger incentives to help building owners invest the money that they need to meet these new climate goals. It is really important that we have independent organizations outside of government that are nonpartisan, like the Five Borough Institute. We can produce independent research. We can convene key stakeholders. This is not something that can be accomplished by government alone.
The real estate community is very dispersed. So you have architects and engineers and building owners and building operators, and they're all kind of operating in their silos doing their own thing. So when we created the Building Energy Exchange, the idea was to bring all of those people together to create this forum for this discussion, give them all kind of common vocabulary and understanding and set of tools. The issue really is not so much our new buildings. 90% of the buildings in 2050 exist today. The reality is, when you look at retrofits, one of the biggest pieces of carbon emissions of our existing building stock is on-site fossil fuel. The gas-fired or oil-fired boilers in the basement that are driving our steam and radiator heating systems and driving our domestic hot water systems. those are the most carbon intensive, really, and the biggest opportunities. And to address those is really a twofold hit. One is replace those fossil fuel systems with electric systems, and the other is to optimize the building envelope, the insulation of the windows and the walls, so that you can put the smallest energy use system in there to heat and cool the building. Insulation forms the backbone of energy efficiency. Reducing operational costs, reduce utility costs, which reduce energy burdens as a building owner or a building tenant. We can see the drive toward high-performance buildings will continue to create healthier communities, but also healthier buildings for the tenants who live in them.
Now that we know a little bit more about the Climate Mobilization Act and Local Law 97, I'm keen to understand how some of the city's leading architects are implementing that into the very fabric of New York City through retrofits and new builds.
But before we move on, a fun fact. Did you know one of the city's most iconic and tallest buildings is already Local Law 97 compliant? The Empire State Building completed its own retrofit in 2010, and since their upgrades they've cut the building's energy usage by about 40% and saved its owners more than $4 million every year. And what's more, ROCKWOOL contributes to that story because there is actually some stone wool in the roof renovation.
Today I'm visiting Lewis Cale.
Director of Sustainability Design at Handel Architects. Headquartered on Broadway, they're renowned for innovative designs and significant contributions to sustainable urban development globally. And one of Lewis's projects is particularly groundbreaking, epitomising both the spirit and the mandate of the Climate Mobilization Act. Let's take a look. Hi Lewis, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me, this looks amazing.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you here and share Sendero Verde with you.
We're a mission-driven firm. We are really passionate about cities and urban spaces, and that leaves a real opportunity for improving the lives of the inhabitants and also improving just the quality of the urban context. New York City is a place where innovation has happened for centuries. The city has a mandate to be a leader when it comes to decarbonization, but also to be a leader when it comes to trying to address the housing crisis, which is a very real thing that we as New Yorkers feel every day. As much as there is a need to build this housing quickly, it needs to be built well. There's not the financing to renovate these things. The climate demands and the energy efficiency upgrades 20 years from now, we need to be doing it today. Right now, we are standing on top of a 100% fully affordable Passive House certified building. This building, these three buildings together, are the largest residential Passive House development in the world.
And in case you're wondering, a passive house inspired by German design is a super energy efficient building. It stays comfortable all year round with quality insulation, airtight construction and special ventilation, which recycles heat, cutting down on heating and cooling needs so it's more cost effective.
The real advantage of Passive House is that it is a performance-based system that sets a series of just very clear thresholds. And that threshold we're seeing is close to 60% lower than what we would be doing otherwise in a building. Targeting a performance threshold just is an invitation to innovation. Starting with the facade, that's the thing that is building the resilience of your mechanical systems to store heat and cooling that you're creating within the building. A significant amount of insulation in the opaque wall. Insulation just in general is critical in making higher performance buildings. One really interesting thing about a passive house is because there's so much insulation, the units are actually quite quiet, which is a rarity in New York City. We pay a lot of attention to all the air sealing details to make sure that we're not leaking cooled or heated air out of the building. When you have this really airtight facade, you have to make sure that you're getting fresh air in. All the exhaust air is being extracted, pushed through the energy recovery ventilator. That heat or cooling is being captured and pushed back into the supply air. Every tenant in this building is going to be breathing fresh, very high quality filtered air. See all around us here a lot of affordable housing of the past. They were designed kind of as this tower in the green concept where you have a tower rising in a large green space. Part of the focus of Sendero Verde was how can we get the density that we need on the site while still having a really robust and vibrant green space and access to outdoors. Some of the projects that we've worked on that have really driven this forward, I think one of the most influential ones is the house at Cornell Tech. It was the first passive house high-rise, and at the time of its completion was the largest and tallest passive house building in the world. This was really a test case in, can this standard be scaled up and can we see the benefits at scale? It's really critical that we are focused on this issue and trying to build new affordable housing, renovate existing affordable housing. The people that make this city run, they need a place to live, and it needs to be within the city that they work in. With Local Law 97, we're in the first year where penalties will start to accrue. The goal of the city is to never collect a dime in penalties. They want to see energy efficiency improvements. They want to see reduction in carbon emissions. This, in my opinion, is the greatest city on earth, and it's a place that really has, I think, a responsibility because of its history, because of how much is built here, because of how much has happened here, to be a leader on this issue globally.
New builds like Sendero Verde are far more than just an energy efficient building designed to fit a mandate. This is affordable housing for New Yorkers that doesn't compromise on design quality. And my last stop here in New York is to meet Winnie at ESKW Architects, who design community-focused projects specifically for vulnerable people. And retrofitted buildings are right at the heart of the CMA.
We're a practice working with mission-based nonprofits and organizations to provide shelter, education, housing, and healthcare to all New Yorkers in need. The Barbara Climate Men's Shelter is the 200-bed shelter that's part of a multi-phase project, part of Greenpoint Hospital that is now going to be at Kingsland Commons, which includes affordable housing, senior housing, community facilities, and healthcare. This building in particular used to be a nurse's residence, and then it was abandoned, and there are lots of different plans in the last 40 years to try to redevelop the site. The community sort of rallied together. They've been working with the city and trying to get something built. We really had to do a lot of demolition, structural reinforcement, a new structure, and updating all the mechanical systems and life safety systems to bring it up to date and up to code, and are working now in construction to bring it to life. The building is going to be a LEED Gold building, so it comes with really energy efficient windows, energy efficient lighting, a tight and well insulated building. The mineral wool was selected and used because it can dry out really easily and moisture won't stay in the partition and create mold and other issues.
Okay.
Housing is a human right, not just for those who can afford well-built and well-sealed and comfortable and healthy shelter. I have that, drive to want to build buildings for the underserved community, to bring equity to people's lives and to give them a place to rest that's healthy and beautiful and is sustainable as well. So I think that's something that drives a lot of people in our firm, and definitely myself.
It's amazing to see how New York is committed to energy efficient buildings, taking its emissions seriously, mandating itself and taking action to keep communities affordable and intact. That's all for now, but we'll be returning to the city later this year for New York Climate Week, which takes place every year in partnership with the UN. There we'll be furthering our commitment to the 11 Sustainable Development Goals, including number 14, Life Below Water, which is why ROCKWOOL partners with SailGP. Thanks for watching, and catch you next time.